morning, friends, and welcome back to Reaper Pro Tips with me, your host, Anne, Disembodied Hands, Quindy, Queen of the, I don't know, Underdark? Do you want me Queen of the Underdark, Quindy? And, yeah, those guys, Justin, John, you know them. Hey, lurking and working. That needs to be a t-shirt. I see you, Bob and Julie. Lurk away. You want to be Queen of the Underdark? Okay, cool. Oh my gosh. Oh, Kuriko is using a Kuriko has names for everyone. I think you just got lucky, Pendrake. So essentially you're loopy. Kuriko is loopy. Allow her to name you whatever she would like. After all, Quindy got Queen of the Underdark this morning, so apparently I'm on your wavelength, Kuriko. Hope you didn't give somebody else Queen of the Underdark. Hello. Yeah, so it's one of those days. Ugh. I was up and down last night, so my brain is like, hello? Maybe. On the plus side, we get to find out how chonky the Keekster is today, because she has to get her flea and tick med, and that's by weight. So they wanted to get a weight on her to make sure they dose her correctly. Loopy, yes. Good. I like Loopy Kuriko. Loopy Kuriko is A-OK with me. Yep, chonk test. Yep. She is a chonk. Like, seriously, she's wide. And I test her. Like, today I tested her again because, I don't know if you guys know this, but when you look at your dog and you want to find out if it's overweight, you run your fingers down their sides and you want to essentially feel the rib cage. And what it should be is you should not be able to just feel the ribs. If you press a little bit, you should be able to feel the ribs. And you should be able to feel the shape of the rib cage. Like there should be a nip in after the end of the rib cage. So they should have a tuck. They should have a waist. So Keekster is like at a good weight. Like when I run my hands on her sides, if I press just a little, I can feel ribs, and she's got a tuck at her waist. But boy, she's wide. That dog is a wide load. We got all of the genes from the Wetterhound, which are pretty stocky dogs. And then there are some chunks on the other side of the pedigree as well. So Kiki got all the chunk genes. I don't know if she's going to be that tall, but she is a chunk. So we may have a short chunk. Short chunk Shiloh. David wanted a smaller dog anyway, which is, I wasn't afraid to get on this litter, even though I knew it could throw some smaller dogs because of the Wetterhound blood back there. I don't mind having smaller Shiloh either. She's strong as blazes as it is. She can already, if she catches me unaware, she can already pull me a couple of steps. So like at 80 pounds, like, wow. I think she is going to hit 80 though, unless she stays really short. Yes, this is very silks and satins, Arabian, kind of feel, right? I like to paint my genies in like dawn colors and sunset colors and stuff like that. Like I feel like that's just cool. Like when I did the female genie, she was actually, her skin was blue and pink. But I don't know that I have a picture of her. I might have a picture of her on my Facebook, but only work in progress. I don't know that I actually got I don't know if I actually got a photo of her before we sent her on. Would have been last year, huh? Maybe even 2020. If I can find her quick, I'll find her quick. Pretty sure it was a ways ago, though. Oh, it's around here, I think. All right, do I have it? The thing is, when I was first painting her was ages before we were painting her on stream. So, ages and ages. Oh, I got some pictures. I have a couple of favorites. I have Grumpy Cat, and I have the statue turning to flesh. I have a couple of pictures. Let's see here. Just going to try a little bit more. If I can't find it, I can't find it. Oh, we got Troll. Yeah, I got some crazy. I've kept pictures of stuff, but yeah, I don't know that I have. I certainly don't have the finished pictures of the genie. No finished pics. There are things I have a ton of work in progresses on, and there are things that I just do not. And just waiting and seeing if I can find it. I was originally working on her before I left Reaper. Before I came out here. Almost. I did want to show you though, if I can find even the begin picture. Well, I may have to give up. Like, who knows how far back I have to actually go to find the genie picture. And I'm scrolling pretty fast. I might actually, like, miss it. Yeah, we're way back. All right, I think I'll give up. Anyway, I like to do genies and sky folk in unusual colors. It just feels right to me. So even though this guy, I decided I really wanted to go with a natural skin tone, but a dark skin tone, Araby in a way, I still wanted to introduce some of those dawn colors that I enjoy doing on things like this. So, man, I'm going back way far now. Back in the eternity, lost in the sands of time. Back when I was painting Soldier. Oh well. No love. No love. Oh, wait, I lied. Yeah, good morning, Val. Good morning, everybody. Sorry, I was like trying to find this picture, so now I'm here. Viva Aqua, I've never picked up a mini. I forgot I even painted, but what I have done is, up here she is full. Yeah, there we go. So that's the skin tone I went with on her. So we went with a still white hair, which I think is suitable for a Jin, but that was when I first painted her. I was at Reaper working on that. That was Paint Club, I think. So yeah, but she's got a really cool skin tone. She actually is blue highlighted up with pink. So there we go. Now we know, and I like shudder to look at how long ago that was. Seriously. Alrighty. Man, I need to go through my photo album and just like prune. You know that feeling? You know that feeling when you've gone through like all the pictures and you're just like, I wish. I wish I had time to just go through and like cull. All right. So anyway, so yeah, what I have done is when I went to visit George R. Martin's collection, Viva Aqua, and we were there, I actually located things that I had forgotten I had painted for him. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff out there. So I tend not to buy something again because I almost always remember if I've painted a particular figure. But I don't necessarily remember who I painted it for or when. So there are figures that I painted that like he picked one off a shelf to show my friend. It turned out to be one I had painted and I had forgotten I had painted it. Yeah, I found the genie picture, but I'm not going to re-find it now, Pendrick. We've already used up a lot of time. So I'm grabbing my stuff. I wanted to do the rest. I really like how the turban turned out, so I want to do the rest of this color now. So you can see the before and after there. It's pretty striking. So we're using our Lotus Orange from the Kickstarter for this color. If you want to do a peach or a salmon type color, I highly recommend it. It really puts you in exactly the right territory for the peach color we've got here. So we've got 4 drops of this, 1 drop of Magma Red, which is a very orangey red, which originally I thought would get us where I wanted, but then I turned out to need just a tiny touch of clear red in addition to that. So I'm going to do my 4-to-1 with my Orchid and Magma, and then I'm going to put just a touch, just a little smear on the tip of my brush of the clear red, 9094. Let's get actually this guy in focal, correct focal point here, focus point. There we go, and then I can do this. Just want like half a drop. Bloop. Use your best judgment as to what half a drop is. But that's about right. Yeah, you missed her, but you know what she is. That was mostly for people who have not been on the stream so long and who had not remembered that model. All right, so that's our base color, which is a very, very bright reddish orange. We're going to pop some water into that to keep it fluid, and then we are going to start adding, obviously I added white to it for this color. And that's really what you do to create a good peach color or salmon color or coral color, is you just take this and you add a little bit of white. Nothing in a bit more. So Kiki now brings my slippers to me every morning without running away with them, mostly. If David says outside, she'll forget and she'll run out of the room with one in her mouth, which is pretty funny. All right, let's get some of this transferred over to this side. And a little bit of white in there. Probably going to have to mix up more of this base color. There we go. That's almost perfect. Here, let me get this in focus. I'm a little bit too close. There, that color. And of course, I'm able to swatch it because I did do a swatch, so I can just put a little tiny bit on the edge of this to determine that I'm close enough. Yeah, Pendrake, I mean, it's pretty easy to train a dog that. What you first do is you train them, I use up, but up means get up on this platform, get up on this bed, get up on this, you know, whatever. She's got one of those hammock beds with the metal frames where it's kind of, you know, like a suspended bed. So I use that and I do up. And then what we do generally is just like, you just do that and you pretty much can use a treat to hold her in place on it. It's pretty easy. All of our previous dogs were so well trained on the scale that when we went into a vet's office, the first thing they did was head to the scale and stand on it, and it always blew the vet tech's mind. I made stew last night. I made my curry cinnamon lamb stew, because every time I try to think about making a different lamb stew, I just stop because it's just not as good. So yeah, so as you can see, just even from up there, I've got a perfect match on this color. We've matched our base coat. That's good. We need it for touch-ups. I also feel like I'm going to need to put another coat on. This was a little thin. I can see a little bit of the gray through it. David Weir, thank you for the resub. 38 months. Dang. Yeah, Kiki is smart. That's never been Kiki's weak point. Intelligence is not Kiki's weak point. Willpower is Kiki's weak point. And not nomming on people, although she's getting better. She's getting better. I have like huge hopes for her having large improvement by the time David's parents arrive, because they're coming for Christmas, so they get firsthand Kiki exposure at the max. So we will have to be vigilant and train them. We'll be training his parents more than we'll be training the dog. All right, so just want to put another coat on this. These colors can, even with the white in them, can get a little bit translucent, especially if you're thinning. So I'm going to just take advantage of this time to do an extra coat. I want a nice solid color to work from on this. Aw, that's bummer trash. You should have gotten a treat. But yeah, I don't know why, but they love Kiki at the vet. Like, she is such a wild child, but they are all like, they love her energy. Like, they think she's a super sweetheart. She's getting really wolfy looking. Like, I was looking at her the other day, I just glanced over at her in her crate, and her face is getting very, very wolfy. Very wolfish. Which is why it leads people to think there's wolf behind the Shiloh, but we have not. Or if there ever was, because there is always the chance that our breed founder pulled a fast one and just lied to everybody. Like, breed founders have done this before. But we did full DNA workup with UC Davis and found pretty much zero. There's zero evidence. Like, we don't have any of that in us. So our the appearance is just, yeah, coming from the Malamute and German Shepherd and the mix that they make for the head shape. Planning makes it sound regimented, Pendrake, as far as how much planning do you put into a miniatures color scheme. So I am a ruminator. I am just the way that my psychology works. I'm a thinker. So I don't sit and stare at colors. I don't sit down and make a list of colors it could be. I don't look at my colors on my paint rack or in my drawer. I just kind of think about the model, and I think about the model's personality, and I see what comes to mind. And some models, right when I see it, I know exactly how I want to paint it. And some models I don't, and often those are the models that end up just sitting in a box. Because, technically that is planning. Like, if you're just kind of thinking about the model and letting the color scheme come to you, I mean, you're still thinking about it. If you're just jumping in, then that's when you can get caught in a color corner or in a color rut. Because we all kind of get in color ruts where we're kind of into a particular color. And that's cool if you see it and you're just like, oh yeah, I just love this color, I'm going to use it all over the place. But sometimes it can also cause you to get sick of that color, so be careful. But yeah, I would say that I may kind of think. I just kind of let myself think about the model. I'm often not even looking at the model when I'm thinking about it. I'm just kind of thinking about it when I'm taking my walk, or when I'm playing computer games. I'll have the model out and I'll just kind of look over at it and kind of think a little bit. I'll just let it go. And eventually, if the model gets painted, then eventually I got an idea. But yeah, I think planning is a bit of a misnomer. This question always comes up in writing also. Are you a planner or a pantser? And the planner, is the person who outlines everything, and the pantser is the one who writes by the seat of their pants, or as we call it, which I like this term a little bit better, a discovery writer, somebody who likes to discover the story as they write it. Stephen King is possibly one of the most famous of the latter. But I think there's a whole continuum and spectrum between there where you don't like necessarily plan as other people might think about it, right? Yeah, Agent Marvel, I guess if when it comes down to it, it's like that. If I'm going to paint a model, I kind of know what my main color is. Unless, of course, I'm doing it for the stream here when I often let you guys choose. I need some tropical blue to touch up. My coral has escaped. Where's my tropical blue? There I am. Yeah, I definitely used to paint in red all the time, and then it was like purple all the time. It still is kind of purple all the time. But I switch it up enough. Like pretty much if I look, what's interesting is I can look at my models on the shelf for pro tips, and I can usually spot if I'm in a rut. And then I'll try to like switch it up. I'm going to put this tropical blue way over here. Just want to touch up around this gemstone here. And then we're ready to do some shading, which if you remember was taking the original color and putting runic purple in it and getting this really dark reddish pinkish, dark reddish orangish pink. And that's what the shadow is up here on the turban, right there. So we'll get to that in just a sec after I touch this up. It depends on the red, but you'll get a purple. You'll probably get a bruisey purple. The blue will tend to be more powerful than the red. But since you're already shifting toward purple with indigo, you'll probably get that. But it depends on the dark red, though, pen rate, because some dark reds are made by mixing in blue, and some are made by mixing in black, and some are made by mixing in brown or green. And the color you use to create the dark aspect of that red is going to impact your final color on the mix. Yep, bruise. See, just what, there we go. I was right. It's a bruisey color. Nobody is surprised at all that Anne was right about what a color mix is. This is our audience's complete lack of surprise. There we go. Just want to get all this nice and solid, and then we're good. Okay, and I got his turban pretty much all done, so let's go. All right, let's go shading. Let's get to it. Oh, and I want to put some water in this tropical blue just in case I need it. You never know when you're going to need some tropical blue. But yes, so this afternoon Keekster and I get to go to the vet, and I'm going to try it without her car sickness med, because last time she was able to do it without the Dramamine. Or just at this point, it's almost instinctual. It's like pigment. What does this pigment make with that pigment? Next one, what? Next model, you mean, Vimanagua? I used green on the Mouseling. I used Leaf Bud Green and Naga, if you recall. We're doing the kitty Christmas tree, the cat dragon Christmas tree, and there's green on that. Sophie won't have any green. She'll have red, because that's what we're doing the canon, the way I've painted Sophie's for forever. But yeah, I mean, I switch it up. Where's our runic purple? Here's our runic purple. Runic purple! Okay, and I want to use my original colors. That's why I mixed up my original color and didn't just mix up the base coat color. because this is shadow, right? This dark one, except it isn't yet. We're going to do runic purple. It's going to be 2 to 1. So we're going to grab a big brush full of this. 1, 2, and then we're going to put runic purple in. But yeah, sometimes I let you guys choose. Like if I don't really have a strong conviction on a model, but I want to paint the model anyway, and then it's fun to have you guys choose. Need a little bit more. That looks about right. Such a funky color. And I'm going to get that out and just kind of paint it again. Here on the card, I've got this part. I'm going to let that dry. And it looks pretty close. So all it needs to be is pretty close. And I'm going to thin this a bit too. Since it's a shadow, at a pretty delicate color, my shading is a little more subtle. I try not to get too intense on it. I like it to be a bit translucent so I can kind of bring it in. These colors are all very translucent anyway, so they make good shaders. Reds and oranges have never been your highest coverage color, not without other colors added to them. Using a bit of a bigger brush for this. I'm using my Reaper Zero today. I want to, because he's a bigger model, and this is blocking in shadows. It is not. It is a lot more orange than Old West Rose. Old West Rose is made with reds and browns, so you're close. Essentially reds and oxides. But the blue in here shifts it, and the direct orange and yellow shift it. It's also more saturated than Old West Rose, which has a fair amount of white in it. This actually has very little white in it, so we're just going to kind of block in our shadows here. We want shadows underneath this overhanging part. I've still got my base coat color, so I can do a little bit of a wet blend here to get these to blend in together and play nicely. But yeah, it is kind of a rose color. It's just a really weird. But any muted pink is going to look odd and kind of rosy. So getting that shadow there. You want to get a shadow underneath this bottle, probably a pretty heavy one. Have a little bit of color here, and then we've got obviously another shadow here. Today I'm going to sit down, talking and planning, I'm going to sit down and plan out my Patreon content, I think, for the next couple months. Normally I work about a month in advance because I like ideas to just kind of, pop up organically, but I've got a list of things now that people have kind of requested. So I think I'm going to sit down and plan out. And I think one thing I've never done is essentially done the rules, the basic rules of NMM in just a PDF, just like the old Learn to Paint Kit 2. Just breaking it down really simply. And I think I'm going to do that for the $2 PDF this month. Because I do a lot of NMM stuff, but it's much better if you can kind of start with a beginner fundamental type of thing. I just need to find a good model for it. So now you can see, look at just how much that little bit, and all I did was shade. But look at how flat this looks, and then look at how much that shading has impacted this color. Like, so shadows are so important, guys. Like, this is why I often like to start with the midtone and work down and up instead of working with the shadow and work up. It lets me control my shadow placement a bit more without as much work. Yeah. Oh, good, Krinika. I'll do it then. Aqua, my book is in the hands of David's mom, Mary, who is a part of her job. She works for a law firm, but part of her job is proofreading. Normally she's proofreading very dry stuff, but she is an avid reader. She does love to read fiction, so she offered to proofread it for me. So as the last step As far as the last editing step before publication, East of the Sun is now being proofread. And she's going to give me those. She'll probably, I imagine, she's chunking through it at a pretty good pace. I imagine I'll have it by Christmas or New Year's. I'll probably end up skidding into publishing it a little bit later than I expected, maybe end of January, early February. We'll see. Yeah, it's going. So now I've actually got, for the first time, I have on my to-do list that I actually now need to pony up and budget for the layout program I want so that I can lay out the book properly and in the correct format for Kindle and anywhere else I choose to publish it, which is a thing. And then after the layout, I just have to brush up on the Amazon interface and how to, like all the different settings. I have to figure out, double check on my keywords. There's so much to do. Like, self-publishing a book is freaking work. I mean, writing the book was work, but then, indie publishing is also work. So let's get some shadows in here on the belt. As you can see, we're getting that in. Yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to messing with the layout program. So it depends on how long. Like, I'm not going to rush. I want to learn. I need to learn a lot. I like to learn, so that's an advantage for me. Like, I really do enjoy the learning process. I like learning new things. So it'll be fun. But it will be work, right? And I'm not going to like force myself to do, to try to speed through it. I want to learn to do it for good, right? And in the meantime, I am doing the rewrite on book 2, continuing edits. I've learned I take an awful long time, like, to go over stuff. The first book, guys, I think I edited that sucker, and I'm talking like editing complete read-throughs, significant changes, probably 25 times. Because that's the way, that's the way I am as a writer. The more I study, like, the strength stuff, and the more I listen to videos of writers talking about their process, which I've been doing a lot lately, the more I realize that, like, at a creative level, like, there are so many different ways to go about it. And mini painting is it's got to be the same, right? It's just like we were just talking about planning, right? It's like some people will painstakingly plan their color scheme and their patterns and everything, and some people will just dive in, and a bunch of people will do a bunch of different things. There are no vampires in my book, Vimanaqua. Vampires actually are not a feature of Norwegian folklore. I mean, honestly, I don't know if a bronze would work, but I mean, you might be able to get, I mean, the problem there is, like, you'd have to do it yourself, and it'd have to be a one-off. Oh, yeah. Yes, I knew you were making a fun of Vimanaqua. But just in case you were wondering, Norwegian folklore does not have vampires. Nor does it have Thor or Loki. We're talking fairy tales, not mythology. There is a difference. Although a lot of fairy tales were taken or based on mythology. The fairy tale that my book is based on is a direct reinterpretation of the Cupid and Psyche myth from Greek mythology. Like, you can see now, given it starts with that kind of theme, but then the Norwegians, like, totally went in a different direction with it, which is what makes it original. Oh, I think that's not true at all. I mean, yes, funny Shadow Raven. You certainly can't do teen urban fantasy without a vampire, but there are other sections of like there is teen YA epic fantasy. It is still the genres are there, and many publishers feel that vampires have oversaturated the market a couple of times. Like, everything comes in waves, right? Like, sometimes there's a lot of vampire out there, and everybody wants vampire, and then everybody gets sick of vampire, and then the market goes some other direction. One, you would really have to, because of copyright crows, if you're using an existing sculpt, like, it has to be, like, you have to do it and it's for you alone and not reproducible. Like, it's a fine line there. I don't know what the legality is of doing that as far as IP, copyright, etc. It's kind of like Eric Swinson's Monte Sansevino Best in Show being a WoW model, but it was a WoW model that he paid to have sculpted just for himself that will never be resaled, right? So he could do that, but that's funny, Reniko. They're pretty. There's some pretty horrific stuff in there. My book is, of course, it's YA, and it's like, it's, I don't know. I go some darker places, but there is no like sex or extreme violence in them. You know, there. I guess there's a suggestion of violence, though. Like, I just don't go into graphic detail. Like, there's still physical danger in the books, but there's not. It's kind of like Redwall. Like, violence happens, but he doesn't get too explicit with it. That's kind of what I think I'm aiming for, is that feel. Where there's definite physical dangers, there's definite battles, but you don't, like, I'm not going to take you to that place where you have to, like, have it in your face. And that's just what I like as a reader, so it's what I'm going to write as a writer. All right, so there we go. So we got that nice shadow in here, and you can see how this is really coming out now and getting dimension to it with the addition of shadows. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, zombies come and go. Like, there's, it's just all over. And you know what? Vampires will come back around. Werewolves will come back around. You know, it is a big cycle. Once people stop being sick of something, somebody will reimagine it with a really unique take, and then it'll take off again. Yeah, Redwall is definitely a huge influence for me as far as just the tone of my books. Like, I love the adventure, the feel of the adventure in Redwall, and the way that he tackles physical danger and violence, and that's probably where my books pull strongest from Redwall. I love how the other books that probably are strong influences are stuff like Robin McKinley's Deerskin, which is actually a fantasy retelling of Catskin, I think. Although that does get very dark and nasty, so I do not pattern myself after that part of it. Neil Gaiman's Stardust is another good one, that kind of feel, and then very much the fairy tale feel in that. And then the last book that really influenced the way I'm kind of filling out my world is Watership Down, actually. Both because I have, like, animal fae as, like, characters, because there are talking animals in fairy, let's face it. And because the way that my mythology is introduced to you is through the characters telling stories to each other, just like in Watership Down, which I always loved. Like, that was my favorite part of Watership Down, and I love that book. But the way that he did it was it's just so great. You learn the mythology, and you learn then, what's behind everything. Yeah, I mean, it all rolls around, right? Twistonoma. Yeah, they've been trying to do a Redwall series for so long. And I mean, Netflix is a natural for that sort of thing, and if they do it right, it could be wonderful, right? It's just a shame that Brian Jacques is already, like, didn't live to see it. Like, that's the saddest thing. So doing a bit of lining here, guys, just to kind of separate this out. Yeah, so those are my influences for the most part. There are some others. Obviously, I read a lot of Mercedes Lackey as a kid. I read a ton of C.J. Cherryh, who's a science fiction author who also writes space opera, and I love her space opera stuff. There are lots of writers that probably like put a kind of tiny little bit of wiggle of style into my like development as a writer, just because I've read their books so many times. There we go, green users. Green users with the help. I figured you would be the one to ask, Julie, you and Bob. You might be able to get a casting house to make a sand cast mold of something. Sand cast aluminum. There we go. So there you go. There's some Google terms for you, crows. Thanks, Julie and Bob. I figured you guys would have a clue. I thought Jason Weeby might also be the one to ask. And aluminum would hold up, I would think. So I'm doing some liner mixed, some brown liner mixed with my purple now, guys. Just a little bit. It makes kind of this. Here, let me show you the color it makes. Kind of more of a brownish pink, real dark. They're lurking today, Twisted Oma. But they emerged from their lurk to answer Crow's questions. Yeah. So that's the color I'm kind of using to pull in to the darkest shadows. Just a little bit like underneath here. You can see it there. Right, Kerniko, right. But the book is so good anyway. Like, I just don't watch movies of my favorite books usually. Like, there are some exceptions, but I have never seen Stardust, much as I love Neil's work and much as Stardust is like an iconic book for me. Because I figured the problem is that what I love so much about Stardust is the fairy tale tone of it. And I knew that the movie wouldn't capture that, right? It's not a strength of the movie, it's a strength of movies, it's a strength of books. To get that language right and the way that you enter the story and the way things go down. Like there's a certain formality to the language of a fairy tale. And Neil nails it. Like he gets it. I actually had to tone down that bit of that language in my book just because most readers aren't gonna like be as into fairy tales as I was as a kid, and so it reads a little bit stilted. So I had to do kind of a compromise at points. I tried to keep when the characters are telling stories, I definitely keep it, but when in the normal speech, I had to tone it down. The things you have to do as a writer. But yeah, I could totally see where if something is filmed in your backyard, you kind of, you can't really get into. It's like, no, you idiot. All you have to do is go 20 steps more that way, and you'll be out. So again, we're just deepening shadows here, and I'm just kind of working with it. It's important for me to get the shadows right before I even touch highlights, because I want that feeling of weight. And all the folds coming out and all this kind of thing. And I want to make sure that I nail this before I start putting in all these nice distracting highlights where you just, at that point, you stop noticing the shadows. I think I want actually just a little bit more down here. But yeah, I'm excited. Like, guys, it's going to be like in 2 months, less than 2 months, I will be a published author. Like, It's crazy. Do you know how many decades this has been a dream for me? Like, crazy talk. And I don't really care, like, if the book, like, doesn't, like, do great. Like, as long as people are finding it and reading it, I'm still going to do at least 4 books, because these are the stories I want to tell, so I'm just going to do it. And hopefully, I know there's a fairy tale audience out there, a fairy tale loving audience. I know there are people who love fairy tale fiction. There's just no question. When I've talked about my books with people, like, there have been so many people whose eyes light up when they hear, you know, about what it's like. And so I have to think there's an audience out there. It's just finding it. And just like painting, like, if you get into painting and you're like, I really want to be, like, I really want to win a gold medal at X, or I really want to, you know, I want to be kind of a name painter. I want to start my own Patreon. I want to, like, teach. I want to do all this stuff, right? You know it's going to be a long road, right? You know it's not going to be tomorrow. And so you have to just concentrate on the steps on the road and feeling great that you've accomplished, you know, when you get your first bronze at ReaperCon, when you get your first silver, you know, when you teach your first class, when you, all these little things add up. And so writing, being another creative pursuit, is the same way. You're in it for the long haul. Your book might not really, like, make anything with money speaking. You know, it might take 5 years for people to discover it. It might take 10. You don't know. It might never take off. The market might just decide it doesn't want your book. And then you have to, like, shift gears and write something different, or paint something different, or teach something different. Really bad John Travolta. That's funny, Thurmel. But yeah, so this is definitely the long road, and I'm a bit, some would say I'm a bit late in life to be, like, starting this road, but you know what? Like, J.K. Rowling didn't publish Harry Potter until she was 45, and I'm not that much older than her, so I figure I can go there. Life is distracting, and it took me a long time to prioritize my writing. As we all know, right? It takes us a long time sometimes to spend as much time as we'd like on our painting. Gonna make sure my mid-tone is still mixed up and fluid. I'm just adding some water to it, since I'm doing some blending in here and some touch-ups with my shadows. I'm going to pop around to the front now. Again, you can see we're getting some dimension up here and here, but we're still totally flat here. So just the difference that even just putting shadows in. Like, if you started with, like, medium light colors and you just lined and shaded everything, and then used maybe some dark colors where you just didn't do much at all except maybe one highlight, you'd have a great looking model. Like, you don't need that much. Okay, I do want to make sure my lining is together too. So I'm going to be touching up places where I didn't line or where I went over lining a bit. I like to do that as a shading step. So usually if I base coat with midtone, I will line right away, or I will line after shading. Because lining is just a very abbreviated, efficient shading method. So I consider my lining to be part of my shading, and it makes sense to me to do it when I'm at the point of shading the model, or shading the portion of the model I'm working on. But yeah, my big question mark now is just, like, as I work on this edit for book 2, which completes the story. Like, this is technically a duology. How long is it going to take me to get book 2 in shape? Because I really don't want to publish book 1 until book 2 is close, since I don't want people to have to wait for the conclusion to the story. So I'm kind of pushing through this edit right now, kind of with an eye toward, so how long is this really going to take me? Grim, dark, wretched place, and so is Gotham. Did they use what? They couldn't have used. They didn't use Edinburgh, did they? What city did they use? Cranico. Or was it somewhere? Was it not Gotham, but somewhere else that they used for? Somewhere else in the movie. Oh, okay. Necropolis Graveyard in Glasgow. Okay. So Glasgow. I have never been to Glasgow. I've been to Edinburgh, but not Glasgow. I love Edinburgh. Just a little bit of lining around the gems here on the thingy. Honestly, no, it wouldn't, Agent Marvel. I would take either Stormy Gray and Black, or I would take Carbon Gray. Gray liner is very dark. You could even use Noir Black if you have it. But definitely darker. Mountain Stone's not, I don't think it's quite as dark, and it's browner. Yeah, Noir Black is going to have a lot more coverage than Gray Liner, so depending on what you're trying to do with it, Agent Marvel, like if you were going to try to use it as a shader for NMM, I would kind of wince and say maybe mix it a bit with your gray or be ready to thin it way down. Gray liner is just really useful for steel non-metallic metals. But if you're doing anything else with it, then it should work fine. Alrighty, and I want some lining around this. Yeah, Shadow for NMM, it's going to thin it way down. Like, this is why Gray Liner is specifically a really good fit for Shadows on NMM, because it doesn't have that coverage. You can get it to thin, but still be dark. It's a lot easier to use Gray Liner. So if at some point you think you're going to be painting a lot of NMM steel, you could also try Blue Liner, but it will tint it dark blue. But if you think you're going to be painting a lot of NMM, I would go in and buy some Gray Liner. But you can use the other, yeah, just thin it. And you might have to mix a little bit of your mid-gray with it, just a tiny bit, to get it to work well together. Because, yeah, shadows for NMM are difficult because you have to blend from almost black to white in a very small space when you're doing 28 millimeter. And so that's why I advise the Gray Liner. You could also use Brown Liner. Again, it would make it a bit brown. The liners are just nice that way, where you don't have to fight with them to get them to a pretty translucent level. I'm putting a shadow on the interior of this. Oops, got a blurf. Okay. Sure. Agent Marvel, sure. Well, then the way to make the other noir black work is, like I said, is thin it more than you think, and probably put a little bit of your mid gray into it. Even though that'll lighten it just a little bit, it'll make it a little easier to blend in. I'm going to line where this cloth goes up the side here. It's nice that Brendan Fraser is a nice guy. You know, there's a lot of pressure on famous people when you meet them. I always kind of give them a little bit of a bye because of how terribly some people treat them. But it's nice when somebody famous makes time and is a cool person. And I speak mostly from watching like famous writers deal with their audiences. So that's mostly the famous people I've run into. All right, so a bit of blending here after we put that line in. So just kind of dashing in these line folds, but the best thing you can do for most famous people is to remember that they're just normal people. They're normal people who are really, really skilled or lucky or had great timing or all of the above and who worked hard to get where they were. There are some famous people who would rather you treat them like, you know, they should be put on a pedestal, but in my experience, those are not as common. All right, I'm going to actually put, these are the same like kind of cloth, but they are actually different strands of it. If you look at the back, so I am going to put a little bit of a darker shadow between them. A mixture of my liner and my normal shadow color, and I'm going to try to be real light with it. Real lightweight. Aw, she'd never let you know, Quindy. She'd never let you know that she actually likes it. But since you can stalk her on the camera, Our pets would be horrified if they knew what we could do with technology. It's a cloudy day here today. I had hoped that we would get a little sun eventually. We're definitely getting a lot more rain this winter than we have been, which is nice for the plants. Nice for the snow. David was already like kind of grumbling over the fact that he was going to take off this weekend and go skiing until he realized that we have to get a Christmas tree and we have to get presents for his parents, so we have to go shopping and all that stuff. All right, so I want to put also a little darker shadow like right here next to the armor. So again, I'm going to grab my normal shadow, pick up just a tiny bit of the brown liner and a little bit of water and just make that a little darker in here. Yeah, I'd like to get Keekster a new bed, but she loves Kiri's old bed. Actually, I should show you guys. This is funny. So I've been teaching her mat, right? Teaching her. I say go to your mat, but place is the way that a lot of people teach it. And so this weekend, I gave her snuffle mat because it was a rainy day. And she decided after eating all the treats out of the snuffle mat that it was obviously just a normal mat. So she used it as a bed to chew her bone on. I'm like, Kiki, your snuffle mat is, oh, heck. She's like, it's a mat, Mom. It's just like any other mat. I'm going to just lie on it and chew my bone. It smells like treats. She's silly. Very, very silly. I don't think I have any other new Kiki photos. No. No other. I hear her rumbling around in her crate back there. Probably will hear some howling soon. All right. We are at the point where we can start to block in some highlights. I've got... got most of this stuff all where I want it. With the shadows, you can see we've got some nice definition now. I'm not doing the bracelet yet. I haven't decided what I want to do. I guess I should do some of them. We'll just make them opaque though. There, put a little bit of shading. Yeah, I'm happy that Kiki doesn't do that, Epic. I was worried because she's such a smart one. I was pretty much like, this dog is going to realize that she can pick this up and shake the treats out of it, and then, you know, she's going to just chew its pieces, right? But she surprised me. She actually treats it with respect. She has only chewed up a very small portion of it where she really couldn't get the treat out and got frustrated. And she doesn't flip it upside down. So I'm pretty happy about that because, yeah, I mean, with the smart dogs, and you know how smart dogs can be, obviously, since your pug has figured it out. But she still likes to interact with it traditionally, so I'm pretty happy. I might get her a new, bigger one for Christmas, one with just the big rosette on it because that's her favorite part. Kiki's going to get a stocking full of stuff for Christmas. David's like, we need to let her unwrap her presents herself, her own presents. And I'm like, yeah, but then she's going to just learn to unwrap everybody's presents. It's like, you must always consider the possible evil implications of what you're teaching your dog to do. Treat respawn. That's funny, Kerniko. Alrighty, I'm gonna, I need to make my highlight color, but my color has gotten very shrinky dink. I've been using a lot of it, so I might have to remix real quick. Make a bigger puddle. But yeah, you always must, there's always some sort of evil implication, possible evil usage of anything you teach your pet. And they will figure it out. Boop. Okay, a little bit of red. I've got my base color mixed up again. And a little bit more red, I think. Oh, yeah, we're starting to get woofing. Starting to get woofing. So 2 big brush holes of this over here, and then a black dash of white. Mixing up a new section of this. Yeah, oh, I bet, with toddlers. Freeing her now would be a bad idea. It would result in much stream disruption. Alrighty, now that I've got more of that mixed up, I can transfer it over. That's why there are dog training games called boundary games. And we will pop some white into this. Because they have none, you have to teach them. That's a really pale color. Let's see if this matches the one we originally made by getting our card out. When you're mixing colors like this, and they're really non-standard colors and not like anything else, it's definitely time to keep your card and do a little dab to make sure that you're close to where you want to be. And that actually is a match, looks like. So she didn't do it. She doesn't do it every day though, Pendrake. So you can't tell her she's super powered. She didn't do it last stream. I think she's just got a certain attention span. Yes, but in order for me to do a stream, I must be able to focus, folks. And having the DOG in the room is a recipe for non-focus. I am somebody who really, like, it's amazing enough that I can actually talk to you and paint at the same time. Like, if I didn't have, like, years of practice doing this at conventions and paint club, I would not be able to pull this off. So we're going to move that up, and we're going to start making the rest of it come up to about where his turban is. And since I want this to be a fairly lightweight, fine fabric, I don't want to leave a discernible texture. So I'm just going to start kind of blending in the edge here to bring that out. And if I really want to layer this, I want to thin it a little bit more. I put a lot of pure white in it, so it is definitely Definitely a little bit opaque. And I can also, if I want to keep it thicker, I can wet blend instead. Yeah, we're definitely getting some whinies. Definitely getting some whinies. Somebody wants to go under WALK. She doesn't know she's going to get a car ride later to the vet. All right, have fun, Shadow Raven. Enjoy your food. Well, maybe she normally tries to wake up the feeder of the floof's twisted oma, but that doesn't work, and so she decided she'd try you just because you were there. A little bit of light so we can really bring up that whole thing there. I just put a tiny bit down at the bottom, but even that tiny bit makes a huge impact. I think tonight is going to be easy dinner for us because I cooked the lamb stew yesterday and that was a 2-hour production number. So tonight David will have to settle. Alrighty. So that makes a big difference. You can see again the difference between that and that. You saw the difference between like the flat with the shading and now you add the highlighting and it comes right up. Here on these real narrow areas, I will do a little bit of a wet blend. So little bits, little touches. Again, a pretty light hand on this. I don't want to totally knock out my mid-tone. I knocked it out a little bit up here, but I can bring it back in. And I don't want to bleach it out too much with the highlight, but I do want to bring out details. Going a little bit too heavy in there. There, it's a little better. There we go. Let's get the belt. Starting to come into where the hat and this all looks the same now. And again, you don't want to lose your mid-tone entirely, so sometimes you have to bring that back in a bit. Oh no, I think I just heard rain starting up. Oh, no, maybe not. I was going to say, please no, I want to walk the Kiki without getting completely drenched today. Last night was a night where everything was waking me up. But I did go a bit too many carbs yesterday, and that's probably the problem. There we go. All right, so a little bit of light here. Let's get our highlights back here. We are coming up on the end of stream, so I want to let's get these sketched in here. This is definitely going to hit a lot of light at the top edge of this. David and I took Kiki on a walk together yesterday, which we normally can't do during the week. So I could help him refine his Kiki handling skills. Though mostly he does what I do. That there's just some things. He hasn't been with dogs as long as me. He's not as comfortable dealing with it, so. Alrighty. Yep, have fun, Crowley. Thanks for coming. Thanks for hanging out. Little light on the back of the knot here. Man, I'm kind of happy that I don't have to do meetings anymore. Yeah, at least you don't have the commute anymore. I kind of enjoyed commuting because that gives me time to think and get in the mindset. But I did not enjoy meetings. All right, a little bit of highlight here. When folds are sharp, don't bother trying to side blend them. Just do little touches and blend them down this way if you want to wet blend. There we go. And a little bit of the light. Oh, I hear squeaks. There we go. Alrighty. Back up. And there we are. Our peachy color is really looking good. It's got nice kind of repetition around the model. I could put some peach up here on the hilts. I'm thinking about it. It would be a good place to, yeah, it is, Pendrick. It is a squeaky toy. So up here on the hilt now that I've got the rest of this blocked in, I see that I could very much put a little bit of peach up here. I may also instead try an accent color and go for maybe even, if I want to make these a different color, I could go with runic purple. Since I'm using it to shade the peach, it already kind of has an inclusion in this piece of this model. And if I use it, the purple very small areas, then it's not going to be disruptive to the overall color scheme. So I could do that, and I may. If I decide I want something else, I could use it on the gem up here, use it on the hilt, and use it on these two little doodads on his belt. And that would be enough touches of purple around the model to make it work. I may also shade some of this blue with purple, so that would also bring it in and make it viable as a color. Remember, you can sneak colors into your shadows and then use them on the model, and it kind of ties things together. So you don't always have to be looking for a place to make that the main color. You can also just utilize using it for shading in places. The fact that I've already used this as a shader on the peach, if I also use this or this mixed with a different purple as a shader for the blue, means that I have this purple already on the model, even though consciously you're not going to pick it up. So that would be doable. Yeah. And now it is time to go and wrangle the dingo. So thank you all for showing up on the stream today. Time to stretch. If you've been sitting here, even if you're in a chair, just do a backward stretch. It actually feels pretty good to do the back stretch. Oh, Kiki says, bark, bark. Yes, thank you, everybody. Tomorrow, we've got Mouseling, but I think we finished. I think we have finished Mouseling, so I may need to grab a new model. It's a good thing I ordered a whole bunch of new models, huh? Because I think we're pretty done with the Mies. Kiki says bark. Kiki says you're done. So yeah, I think we're done with Mouse, and I guess I better prep something. I guess I just better prep something, y'all. I think I was planning to start the Sophie, but then we actually had a spot for the Sophie faster than I thought, so I need to get something else. Barky Kiki. Yeah, so yeah, it's a mystery. It's a mystery what we're gonna use, what we're gonna do tomorrow. I'll just figure it out. Yeah, yay new mini, exactly. I've got a bunch. I was thinking having you guys help choose one, but that would delay our start. So I'll think about that. But yes. Okay, guys, have fun. Thanks for showing up. I'll talk to you again tomorrow. Bye-bye.